Hello, folks. Welcome to the latest episode of Stringer's Notebook. I'm your host, Joel Huerto, editor and publisher of OneManFastBreak.net. Before I start today's episode, please hit like, share, and subscribe, and all comments are welcome in this space. Today's notebook, or today's notes, is about the LA Lakers. So I figured I'd bring in the big guns for this topic. He needs no introduction, but I'm going to introduce him anyways. He is the star of Spectrum Sportsnet, proud Wisconsin Badger, and he's a Pittsburgh Steelers fan, which automatically raises his stock in my eyes. He's my former colleague at the LA Times, LA Lakers insider Mike Bresnahan. Welcome to the pod, Brez.
Well, Joe, you got the Steelers fandom part correct. I don't know about a big gun. I'm more like a pop gun or squirt gun. I mean, must be a slow news day if you're trying to get me to come on your podcast since you are the star. But but glad to be here. Thanks for having me. And yeah, our friendship goes back, what, 25 years at least? Maybe even 30? Back to the old Valley Edition times at the
Valley Edition time, right. You know, you and I are probably the only ones who probably know the Valley Edition at this point. But yeah, that was early. I was gonna say early 2000s.
Early 2000s, yeah.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
edition doesn't even exist anymore. And here we are still talking to each other.
It's kind of sad that how the newspaper business has
Yeah,
kind of
yeah,
devolved over time, because it is a necessary form of communication that
yeah,
I grew up with and you grew up with, and
for sure.
a lot of athletes go pick up the paper to see their names in the newspaper, and that was like a big thing. Now it's like there's social media. It's like
They don't need us just nearly as much as they used to need us. They
no,
asked before. Yeah,
they're all on their own brand now. So yeah,
yeah. And you're
but
your
as
own
much
brand.
as
Thanks for having me on.
yeah. So yeah, as much as I'd like to reminisce about the good old days at the LA Times, we'll talk Lakers,
Yeah,
and we could go in so many directions with this topic because the Lakers are a popular topic. But I'll start with the Lakers dynamic with their two big stars, Luka-Doncic and LeBron James. The Lakers' inconsistencies are tied to their two best players, and I'll throw in the Tim McMahon comment about Luka and LeBron have almost zero chemistry on the court. So I want to hear your thoughts. Like what is your thoughts on like the Luka LeBron partnership so far?
I'm okay with it. It's funny you mentioned Tim McMahon, who covered Dirk Nowitzki, at least
Hmm.
towards the tail end of Dirk's career. And Dirk was a guy, as was Vince Carter, and guys who played 20 years in the league or so, whose ability really fell off the table in the last couple years. And that hasn't happened with LeBron yet. He's year 23. He's 41 now, which is kind of crazy. And I feel like the numbers are still there. And so if he was averaging, 9 points a game or even like 5 or 6 points a game, like a guy like Vince Carter or Nowitzki was doing, I'd say, you know what, this isn't working. But that's not LeBron. He still has the statistical wherewithal to make an impact. Now, I think the problem with the Lakers right now is defense. And it's just so obvious to anyone who watches their games. They just don't have a rim protection guy. It's not DeAndre Ayton. And we talked about this when they signed him last year. Hey, he can give you a lot. He can do this, he can do that. He's not a rim protector. He only averages one block shot per game in his career. That's not Manute Bol. That's not even Jaren Jackson Jr. That's just not great rim protection at all. And the defense is an issue on the perimeter too. Hey, LeBron's 43. I'm not going to ask him to do too much. I was impressed last season after AD got traded. LeBron really picked it up defensively. But when you're that age, you have to make a choice. And Kobe did this too. Both those guys said, you know what? I'm just going to excel in the offensive end, period. And defense is going to be secondary to both those guys at this point in their careers. And by the way, anyone else who makes it to year 20 plus in the NBA. Luka, as we know, is also not a great defender. He actually gets a lot of steals. He's usually top 10 in steals. But a lot of that is, kind of gambling and that type of thing. But Luka and LeBron together defensively, that's obviously going to be an issue for the reasons I just laid out.
Right.
Austin Reeves does not help either. Great guy. Loved talking to him. Loved how angry he was in the locker room after he missed that potentially game winner against Phoenix.
Against Phoenix, right.
Yeah.
Yep.
I've known the guy for 5 years. I've never seen him that curt with the reporters, except for that day. I mean, he's one of my favorite Lakers in my 22 years around this team because he's so open arms with the media. Come on in, come talk to me. Let's go. Yeah, let's talk. Win, lose, whatever it is, he's always great to talk to after the game. That's mostly what we care about, Joel, when we cover these guys. Right. Especially after a bad loss. How are they?
Right.
And he was so pissed off after that loss to Phoenix. And granted, it was a beautiful play that J.J. Redick diagrammed.
Yeah.
Perfect pass by Marcus Smart off to the side, all the way to the other side of the court, right in front of the bench, right in front of the Suns bench. And AR got it. He had a chance to hit it, and he just didn't. So he was irritated too. Love seeing that fire. Getting away a little bit from the topic, but he's not a great defender either.
Yeah.
So you have three principals, obviously the best three Lakers by far, and they're just not defensive-minded people.
Yeah, that was the Phoenix game was kind of like a microcosm of the last play, especially the second to last play.
Yeah.
When it was a breakdown. Obviously, Phoenix was going to isolate Luka at the top. That was going to be a given. And then I still don't understand why JJ didn't have a center, because that might have helped a little bit at the rim, because that forced, when Grayson Allen blew by Luka, Marcus Smart didn't pinch, and then it forced LaRavia and LeBron to kind of come hard to protect the basket, and that allowed the kick out to the corner and then the hockey assist to Royce O'Neal. So that was like, if you're looking at the Laker problem defensively, just watch that last sequence, and it was just a mess.
Yeah. And Joel, to be frank, the Lakers are going to have to outscore people 124 to 121, the rest of the season. And they can do that. I was impressed by what they did at Golden State yesterday. They scored 129. I think that was the final. You think I would know better. It was only 11 hours ago or 12 hours ago that it ended. Feels like 10 minutes. But, the problem is when you don't have great defensive players, you do have Marcus Smart, who's obviously at the twilight of his NBA career. I've kind of liked what he can still do defensively. You have Jared Vanderbilt, who's a good defender, but just doesn't offer anything on offense.
Yeah,
except an occasional corner three. It's a problem for these guys. I feel like they might miss Max Christie, who's doing pretty well in Dallas in a silly season that has turned into for the Mavericks. He'd be really helpful right now. He's turned into a nice offensive. Oh, go ahead.
You mentioned Christie. Yeah, Christie was like, he's low level, rotational guy, but he does kind of like the little things that they kind of need.
Yeah. Yeah, they obviously need a wing, better more than anything, who can play both ways. And LeBron's still extremely gifted in the offensive end, and he can fire it up on defense. You just can't ask that of a guy who's his age and his number of years in the NBA, and who, by the way, missed the first month of the season because of a back issue. So it took him a while to get his runway going. Before he started looking like the LeBron of old. And the funny thing about LeBron, Joel, I feel like I've waited every year for the last several years, maybe not several, the last couple of years. Okay, going into the season, it's like, all right, what's going to happen this year? Is this the year that LeBron finally falls off the table? It hasn't happened, which to me is really a testimony to whatever he does during the offseason. But he couldn't get into that runway this year. It was a really short runway for him because of the sciatica. So I'm impressed that he's kind of finally started to come around. Thought he was great against Golden State. He was really a key reason why they won by 8. They were up 32 at one point, and none of those guys had to play in the fourth quarter. And here's the other thing I would say about this team, Joel, and I say it on the air all the time. It's obvious one of the storylines is they have trouble against the good teams, which is absolutely true.
Right.
But the other thing is there's not enough blowouts this season. Even when they're playing the Memphises of the world, and the Utahs, and the New Orleanses, and they have a very nice push. They have a very nice stretch in the schedule where they're going to get two really bad teams. Sacramento, who beat the Lakers earlier in the season, they get Sacramento and New Orleans over the next few days. And these are teams that are, New Orleans is the second worst team in the West. Sacramento is the worst team in the NBA. And the Lakers need to stack up some blowouts. And they just haven't been able to do that. And that, to me, is a sign of something that has to change, because that means LeBron and Luka are going to have to keep playing into the fourth quarter to barely beat these bad teams. And that was not the case against Golden State last night, who is not a bad team at all. They're just lurking in the 7th spot of the play-in tournament. The Lakers need more blowouts, is my long-winded point, and they just haven't had enough, and that's a troubling sign.
Yeah, they win the close games. I think they're like 16-5 in close games, and then they're like, they've had a lot of terrible blowout losses. It's just mind-boggling.
Yeah,
like they're either going to win it close, or they're just going to get wiped out.
Yeah, and Joel, on the post-game show last night, we talked about how the previous 3 games. Maybe it was the pregame show. I'm not quite sure. They kind of blend together, right? But just looking at them over the last week and a half or so, the Boston comes here to LA. The Lakers score 89 points. I mean, that's just you're not going to win a game in today's NBA scoring only 89, especially at Crypto.com Arena. And then if you go out a little bit further before that, I guess I'm talking about their last 3 games against really good teams. Boston was one of them. Mm-hmm. And then you had about 2.5, 3 weeks ago, they played San Antonio.
Right.
They gave up 136 points in that game. You just can't win a game doing that either. So that was the night where the defense really got crushed. And then a couple weeks ago, they played OKC. Obviously, probably the best team in the NBA. I'm not quite buying the Detroit stuff. Sorry. But the OKC game.
You're not buying Cade Cunningham and the Pistons?
I am. I think it's a fantastic turnaround compared to 2 years ago when they were like the worst team in the NBA. Mm-hmm. But they've got to win some playoff games. Same for San Antonio too. They've got to show that they can go pretty far in their conference before I'm going to believe in either of those teams. But in the game against OKC just a couple weeks ago, good game, entertaining game, tight down the stretch, and then Jalen Williams takes over in the last few minutes. And the Lakers lose by 9. So each one of those 3 games has like a different flavor to it for me. Boston, no offense. San Antonio, no defense. OKC can't close down the stretch against a very good team. And they just have to show me a little bit something different in each of those games. To me, it's not anything real consistent either. It's usually the defense, but that wasn't really the case, except for in any of those 3, in the Boston game and the OKC game, except the last few minutes of that OKC loss.
Right. I think that my observation of Luka-LeBron and is the dynamic on the court and off the court. I don't know if you've seen them off the court, how they interact, but to me, in game, during games, it's a little awkward. They're kind of respectful of each other, but they're not they're not tight. They're not like Austin Reeves and Luka. You can see Austin Reeves and Luka. They look like they're besties. They're like goofing around, joking. There's a little different vibe around the two of them. Then you go to LeBron and Luka. It's a little different. I don't know. Do you see the same thing or like?
It's funny. I don't really look at personalities on the court. I mean, I go back to Shaq and Kobe.
Yeah.
In the beginning, it was cool and everything. In the last few years, it was obviously really strained. And by the way, I got the Laker beat at the LA Times 1 month after Shaq got traded.
Yep.
I was like, oh, great. Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
And I saw 3 years of truly mediocre basketball. There was that one exciting series against the Phoenix Suns where they lost in 5 after being up 2-0 in the first round. Remember the best of 5 in the first round? That was
oh yeah, yep.
That was kind of fun, right?
They changed it in I think it took 04. I think they changed it in 04. 2004.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
Yeah, remember the best of 3 in the first round? That was
Best of three,
that was
right?
also cute, right?
Right. We're dating
Um,
ourselves on the best of
I
three.
know, I know. Yeah, it's. I feel like I'm 97 years old right now. Do you want to talk about Kuzi next and
Yeah,
Wilt?
right. Yeah,
Um,
back when the series was, one game elimination. Yeah.
you had the peach baskets and you had the jump ball after everyone scored. I don't really care about on-court personas because
Right.
Shaq and Kobe did so much together. And I just don't really study as intently as many Laker fans and many Laker analysts do. Personalities on court, are they winning? Yeah, I would say they're doing better than I thought at this point. Fifth in the West, right? After last night's win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would say that's better than I thought they would be. Are they a championship team? No. Even LeBron
Yeah.
admitted as much a few weeks ago. Can they be? Sure, if they get some lucky breaks and that type of thing. But they still need to add some pieces. And the good thing for them is, they might have a lot of money to spend this offseason. Obviously, it depends what happens with LeBron. I see a few different outcomes on that. But,
Mm-hmm.
I don't pay too much attention unless it's obvious people hate each other on the court, which is what Shaq and Kobe became. Their off-court stuff started affecting the on-court stuff. I did get to cover that Detroit Lakers final, even though I did the LA Kings that year, Joel. And as usual back then, the LA Kings did not make it to the playoffs. So our old boss, Bill Dwyer, said to me, hey, you get to cover the Lakers in the playoffs. You get to start traveling with them. I'm like, fantastic. Of course, I only got to do the visiting team notebooks and sidebars. But I did get to watch that Detroit Lakers final. Not a pretty thing for those that remember 22 years ago.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
yeah,
a long time ago.
2004, right, 22
Yeah,
years,
yeah.
right, right, right. That was
But
during
anyway, for
the,
your
yeah, the younger viewers.
younger viewers, I'm not going to put you to sleep. Trust me.
And that was also during the Kobe case with the Colorado.
Yeah, yeah.
So
That resolved itself literally right before I got the beat.
mm-hmm.
That was
Yep.
or right after I got the beat, maybe. At any rate, that just to put a point on what you're saying, unless people really hate each other, which is not the case at all, I really don't put much stock into on-court chemistry, whether they like each other or not. To me, it's wins and losses. The Lakers have exceeded my expectations coming into the season. I probably had them as like the 6 or 7, and they could still end up there if they're not careful. You got to salt away the wins against these bad teams, especially over the next few days. But I'm actually okay with where they are right now in the standings, if you look at their personnel in particular.